1. Han Myeong-hoe. Han Myeong-hoe did not wear the crown, he only decided who got to keep it. When the boy king Danjong sat on Joseon's throne, Han saw not a ruler, but an opening. He attached himself to Prince Soo-young and helped drive the 1453 coup that tore the court apart. Senior officials were cut down. Danjong lost the men who stood between him and disaster. But that was not the end of it. When loyal officials later tried to restore the young king, Han helped destroy them too. By then, this was no longer politics. It was betrayal dressed as order. Soo-young became King Sejong, and Han rose with him. He took office, gained influence, and tied his family to the royal house through marriage. On the surface, he looked like the perfect servant of the state. In truth, he helped break one king, secure another, and teach Joseon that a throne could be stolen from inside the palace and still be called lawful. And once that lesson was learned, the kingdom would never fully forget it. 2. Ja-gwang. Ja-gwang understood something terrifying. In Joseon, words could kill more cleanly than blades. He rose from a weaker social background, but he learned how to survive by feeding royal suspicion. Under King Ja-jeom, he helped drive the treason case against the famous general Nam Furmur. That alone made him dangerous, but his real betrayal came later. Under Yeon-sang-gun, Yu used the writings of scholar Kim Jong-jik and presented them as political poison. A funeral essay became a weapon. A page became a death sentence. That helped ignite the Myeong-hoe purge of 1498, and scholars were dragged into exile, ruin, and death. Yu did not need soldiers at his command. He only needed a fearful king and the right accusation. That is what made him so destructive. He looked like a loyal official warning the throne. In reality, he was teaching the throne to fear honest men. He survived by turning service into suspicion and suspicion into power. Few betrayals leave less blood on the hands and more damage in the kingdom. 3. Im Sa-hong. Im Sa-hong knew exactly where Yeon-sang-gun was weakest. He knew the king's deepest wound was not political. It was personal. Years earlier, Yeon-sang-gun's mother, Queen Yun, had been deposed and put to death. That story had been buried. Im helped drag it back into the light, not to heal it, not to seek justice, but to turn the king's grief into a weapon. What followed was the Gapja Purge of 1504, one of the most savage explosions of revenge in Joseon history. Officials, scholars, and palace women tied to Queen Yun's fall were hunted down. Fear spread across the court, and Im stood close to the center of it. That is why his betrayal cuts so deep. He did not simply serve a cruel king. He fed the king's pain until it became mass punishment. He knew what this rage would do, and he used it anyway. When Yeon-sang-gun finally fell in 1506, Im fell with him. He had climbed by making the throne more unstable, violent, and dangerous than before. 4. Kim An-ro. Kim An-ro did not storm the palace with a sword. He used protection as a mask. After returning from exile, he claimed he was defending the crown prince, the future king, In-jong. That made him sound noble, safe, necessary. But behind that image, he was building a trap around the court. He used the prince's name to crush rivals, drive political cases, and tighten his control over offices and influence. Men who resisted were exiled or killed. Even royal relatives were not safe. The court slowly stopped feeling like the king's court and started feeling like Kim An-ro's machine. But then he crossed the line he could not hide. He moved against Queen Moon-jong herself. That was no longer quiet manipulation. It was a direct attack on the royal house. His plot was exposed in 1537. He was arrested, exiled, and executed. Kim An-ro represents a different kind of betrayal. He did not openly seize the throne. He hollowed it out from inside, while pretending he alone was protecting its future. 5. Ja-jeom. Ja-jeom helped Guk-yeong win the throne. Then he helped make that throne impossible to defend. During the bitter succession struggle at the end of Seonjo's reign, Yi backed Guk-yeong and rose with him. Once Guk-yeong became king, Yi moved fast. He took high office, dominated the court, and strengthened the greater northerners. But power was not enough for him. He ruled through fear. Rival factions were purged. Prince Yongchang was dragged down and killed. Queen Dowager Inmok was confined. The palace began to feel less like the center of a kingdom and more like a locked room filled with enemies. This is what makes Ja-jeom different. He did not oppose his king in public. He poisoned the king's name by ruling too brutally in the king's name. Every act meant to secure Gwanghwaegun only made him easier to hate. By 1623, the crown looked stained beyond repair. When the coup came, Yi was captured and executed. He helped turn the whole reign into evidence against itself, and that made the fall feel almost inevitable. 6. Yi-gui. Yi-gui did not betray his king in secret. He removed him. Under Gwanghwaegun, many officials believed the court had become twisted by factional rule and the dominance of men like Yi-jeom. Yi-gui chose the most extreme answer possible. In 1622, he began preparing a coup with other powerful figures. The next year, the plan succeeded. Gwanghwaegun was deposed. Myeong-gun was raised up as King Injo. To supporters, it was a restoration. To the man who lost the throne, it was betrayal in its purest form. That is what makes Yi-gui so striking. He did not whisper against his king and wait for others to act. He helped decide that the king should no longer be king. Then he made it happen. Afterward, he was honored as a great subject of the new regime. That is the coldest part of the story. In Joseon, a minister could destroy one ruler, crown another, and still be praised as a savior of the state. He called it correction. History can call it what it was. 7. Kim Ja-jeom. Kim Ja-jeom began as one of Injo's makers. He helped lift the new king to power in 1623 and was rewarded with trust, rank, and enormous influence. He stood close to the throne through years of crisis. But the closer he stood, the more dangerous he became. After the Manchu invasions shattered Joseon's pride, later plans grew under Hyojong for a northern campaign against the Qing. Kim Ja-jeom leaked those intentions to Qing China. That was not ordinary court scheming. That was a betrayal of the kingdom's most sensitive hope. And it fit the pattern of his career. He fought constantly to stay above rivals, built power through family and court ties, and acted like a man who believed the state existed for his own survival. In the end, his influence could not save him. In 1651, after his son's treason case exploded, Kim was executed. A man can help build a king, serve at his side, and still sell the future of the throne when power matters more than loyalty. 8. Sim Gi-won. Sim Gi-won looked like the kind of man a king could trust. He had helped the Injo regime, earned top honors, and stood among the state's decorated servants. That is what made his betrayal so dangerous. In 1644, while still holding power, Sim began plotting a revolt. He gathered strong allies and planned to place Prince Ho-woon on the throne. The method was brutal. Key generals and ministers would be invited, drunk, and killed before the uprising began. This was not reform. It was seizure. It only failed because men inside the plot exposed it before the blow could fall. Sim was killed before he could move. That ending matters because his story destroys a comforting idea. We like to think betrayal comes from outsiders, from rebels beyond the gate, from obvious enemies. But Joseon often worked differently. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the kingdom was already inside the palace, already dressed in silk, already decorated by the crown, already smiling like a loyal servant while waiting for the right night to strike. 9. Guk-yeong. Guk-yeong may be the most chilling betrayal here because it began with real loyalty. In the final years of Yeongjo, Hong protected the crown prince who would become King Jeongjo. When Jeongjo took the throne, Hong rose with breathtaking speed. He controlled palace security, controlled information, and frightened officials across the court. He looked like the king's strongest shield. Then ambition changed shape. Hong placed his sister in the royal harem. After her death, he tried to keep his grip on the future by manipulating succession through adoption. Then came the charge that shattered everything. In 1780, he was exposed for trying to poison Queen Hyui. Whether one focuses on that accusation or the wider scheme around him, the pattern is clear. Hong stopped protecting the king and started trying to own the king's future. Jung-jo cast him out, and not long after, Hong died in ruin. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy of a king is the trusted hand already at his shoulder. Which betrayal shocked you most? Comment below. And if you want more dark forgotten history, subscribe now.